My third pregnancy ended in miscarriage. I knew it could happen to me, but I didn't expect it to. And when it happened, I was devastated. I also felt guilty. I thought there was something that I could have done to prevent it, or there was something that I did to cause it, even though I knew better. Welcome to Master of Chemomstry, where motherhood and science collide. In this video, I'm going to share with you my miscarriage story and connect it to the science of meiosis. My name is Joy, and I'm a mom and a teacher, and my passion is to share my experiences with others and also make connections to concepts in biology and chemistry. Here's a story of my miscarriage. In August 2017, my husband and I decided it was time to grow our family. We already had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and the deal was that we needed to make sure that our girl was going to be going into kindergarten by the time the next baby was born, because we only wanted to pay for 1 kid in daycare at a time, and we just thought it would be easier if the older 2 were able to take care of themselves, a little bit, mostly take care of themselves, be able to put their clothes on, go to the bathroom on their own, although I am still wiping butts and they're 9 and 6. So that, I don't know, that was a goal that I just didn't realize really wasn't a thing. But anyway, we actually did get pregnant the first month we were trying. And before I go on, I do want to acknowledge those of you who have struggled or are struggling with getting pregnant. I want to affirm you that I understand that your experience and your journey is difficult, and that getting pregnant on the first try is sometimes a hard thing to hear, but it happened for us for this instance. And when I knew that I was pregnant, it was because I had a smell, an odor. I smelled different than normal. And I'm like, I think my hormones are changing. So I took a pregnancy test, and yeah, it was positive just like that. We were really excited. And one of the things that was really cool about it is that the timing was going to be almost perfect, because I'm a teacher. The baby would have been born in May, so I had the summer to take care of the newborn phase before I had to start a new school year. So it all seemed to be going to plan. It was working out the way that we had hoped it would. Except about 2 weeks later, I woke up one morning because I was going to be traveling. I'm a distance learning educator, and I go and visit my students at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. And I got up in the morning, went to the bathroom, and I wiped, and there's blood. And I knew, because of how much blood there was, that I was going to be losing the baby. The miscarriage was occurring. And because there was a lot of cramping, that also continued, and it felt very much like the labor cramping that occurred when I went through labor with my first child. I knew that it was over. I started thinking about all the things that I had done the day before, like things that I thought maybe were why this miscarriage was happening. Like, was it because I drank the kombucha? Kombucha has a little bit of alcohol in it because it's a fermented product. Was it because my husband and I were intimate the night before? Was it because I worked out too hard? Was it because I was on the riding lawnmower and it was kind of bumpy when I was mowing the lawn? All of these things were running through my mind. But I knew, because of my education and because of all the reading that you do as a new mom, as a mom as you're raising kids, that sometimes there can be chromosomal abnormalities that occur. And this is where motherhood and science collide. So chromosomal abnormalities are going to be because of something that happens during the process of meiosis. Meiosis is sexual reproduction. And don't worry, we're not going to be getting deep into things that might make you uncomfortable. We're going to be talking about what's happening with the chromosomes when this meiosis process happens. So when an organism hits maturity, it's going to start making reproductive cells. And these reproductive cells in humans are also called gametes. Are going to be in females eggs, also known as ova. That ova is plural and ovum is singular. And then in males, they produce sperm. That's the male gamete. What's unique about these reproductive cells, these gametes, is that they don't have the same number of chromosomes as the rest of our body cells. So our body cells have 46 chromosomes total, or 23 pairs of chromosomes. While the reproductive cells, the gametes, the egg and the sperm, they have half the number. They only have 23 chromosomes total. So what do I mean by 23 pairs of chromosomes? So for me personally, in my body cells, I have, for chromosome pair 1 of the chromosomes is from my mom and the other chromosome is from my dad. For chromosome pair 20, one of the chromosomes is from my mom and one of the chromosomes is from my dad. So if we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, each from our own parents, that makes a total of 46 chromosomes. And those pairs, the one from mom and the one from dad that are in your body cells, those are known as homologous chromosomes. The word, the prefix homo means the same. So what it means for chromosome pairs or homologous chromosomes is that the chromosome from mom for a pair and the chromosome from dad from a pair code for the same information, are the same size, and also have the same centromere position, which is that little narrow part that you see in the picture. And I'll talk about that more in a little bit. That'll come into play. So when I'm talking about they code for the same information, what am I talking about? Well, chromosomes are made of DNA. And DNA has segments, certain sequences of it that you can see in a chromosome. So the top part, the middle part, the bottom part, and there's all these different areas that are segments of DNA that are known as a gene. And what these genes code for is how to make a specific protein. And proteins are very important because proteins are going to be things that make up the structure of our cells, that allow for different things to get in out of our cells. They can act as gates. They can also act as enzymes for making things, building things up and breaking things down. Proteins make all of our traits. They make us. So our chromosomes code for everything that we need to be who we are, to make us us. Humans have reproductive organs where this process is going to happen. These reproductive organs are also known as gonads, and in males it's the testes and in females it's the ovaries. The cells that reside there have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. When one cell goes through the process of meiosis, the end result is going to be 4 cells, each with 23 chromosomes total. So they're going to have half the number of chromosomes as the original cell started with. Meiosis has 2 parts, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. For each of those 1 and 2 steps, there are subcategories: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. Those are going to happen during meiosis 1, and then they're going to happen during meiosis 2. Different things will happen during each, and we're not going to get into all those details, but these processes allow for reduction division to occur. Reducing the number of chromosomes by having 2 divisions occur is what reduction division means, and that's what meiosis does. There's a lot more that I could tell you about meiosis, but I'm going to try to stick to the parts that matter for why chromosomal abnormalities can happen and how that might lead to miscarriages. And what this has to do with is chromosome numbers for the egg and the sperm, the gametes from the male and the female that come together to make a fertilized egg, which has the potential to become a new human. I also want to point out I'm going to simplify my depictions of chromosomes in my visuals, because if I tried to put 23 pairs of chromosomes into tiny little circles representing cells, it's going to be way too much and get confusing and get too complicated. So what I'm going to do is just show you chromosomes pairs 2 and 9. I just picked them randomly, and we're going to follow them as they go through the meiosis processes. Prior to meiosis beginning, those cells that are in the reproductive organs actually will go through replication, DNA replication, where the DNA for all the chromosomes makes a copy of itself. And so it'll go from this shape to this shape. You can see that there's one side, and then there's something in the middle, and then there's another side. The 2 sides are called sister chromatids, and they're held together by the centromere, which is that narrow spot that you can see with the arrow. So one side has the original DNA, and the other side, the other sister chromatid, is the replicated DNA. And those 2 sides eventually will get split apart at the centromere and end up in separate cells. The next step in meiosis, after this replication happened, is eventually the homologous chromosome pairs 1 through 23, the chromosome pairs, meaning you got one from your mom and one from your dad, those chromosomes are going to get near each other. They're going to get together. And they're also going to get so close together that they can cross over, meaning A segment from one of the chromosomes could end up on the segment of another chromosome. They can switch, they can swap genes. When the homologous chromosome pairs line up, how they line up is actually very random. It's like flipping a coin. So for chromosome pair number 2, the one from mom could be on the left and the dad could be on the right, or it could be the other way around. We don't know. And remember, there's 23 pairs of chromosomes. So it's like flipping a coin for each one, how they line up, which one's on which side. This is called independent assortment, and this makes for even more genetic variation, and this is why siblings are all a little different. Now here's where chromosomal abnormalities can occur. Normally, the homologous pairs are supposed to end up in 2 different cells during the very first division that happens at the end of meiosis 1. After meiosis 1 occurs, then we have 2 cells. Normally, those 2 cells will each go through another set of steps, and then those 2 cells will each divide, which now means we have 4 total cells. And what happens during meiosis 2 is that the sister chromatids that make up the chromosome are going to get pulled apart at that centromere, and each one of those should end up in a different cell. So we should have 4 cells that have 23 chromosomes each. But if one of those homologous pairs in meiosis 1 did not split up from its pair, that means we have too many chromosomes in one of the gametes, in one of those 4 reproductive cells. This is called non-disjunction. Non-disjunction can also happen in meiosis 2. Let's say meiosis 1 went through normally, and we get to meiosis 2, and remember how I mentioned that the 2 sister chromatids that make up the chromosome are supposed to go their separate ways. They're supposed to be pulled apart at that centromere. Sometimes that doesn't happen. You could have gametes that don't have the right numbers again for your resulting cells. One of them could have 22 and the other could have 24. And that's not 23 chromosomes. The human chromosome number is 46. That's what we have in our body cells. We have reduction division to get it down to half so that when the egg and the sperm come together to make a fertilized egg, that 23 plus 23 is 46. So if we have a gamete that has 25 chromosomes and the other gamete has 23, that equals 48. Or we have a gamete that has not enough chromosomes, it has 21 chromosomes and the other has 23, that makes 44 chromosomes. Neither of these is 46. Why is that problematic? Why does that matter? The segments of DNA or genes, remember, code for proteins, and proteins have a lot of different things that they can do. And within the cell, if a specific protein isn't present, then maybe it was for a structure. Now that cell structurally cannot handle its environment and it might not be able to survive. It might not be able to maintain its homeostasis. Or maybe that protein is an enzyme that builds something up or breaks something down. Maybe something involved in digestion, or maybe it breaks down a waste product. And if something is not occurring properly to help that cell maintain its life, then that cell's going to die. Now, there are going to be instances where some chromosomal abnormalities are survivable. Sometimes the children that are born with these abnormalities might live for a little bit, or they might live a really long life. But the conclusion here is that some chromosomal abnormalities are just not survivable, which can lead to miscarriages in early pregnancy. Back to my story. Even though I was well aware of chromosomal abnormalities, I still thought it was my fault. I still thought there was something I could have done to change the outcome. One of the hardest parts is that every time I had to go in to get my blood tested to verify that the miscarriage was occurring and to make sure that everything was occurring properly, naturally, that there wasn't any tissue left, and that I wasn't going to have to go in to get additional assistance with getting the tissue removed. Every time I went in and the phlebotomist asked, why I was there, I had to tell them I'm having a miscarriage. It was really hard, having to explain that over and over and just get reminded again about what happened. The other thing that was really difficult was having to tell everybody that we had already told that we were pregnant that we were no longer. There's a lot of things that people don't like to talk about, and miscarriage is one of them. And I hope that if you've had one, that you can find somebody to talk to. I know that I wasn't a very good person to talk to before I had a miscarriage. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have the experience. So maybe the things I said were insensitive or weren't very helpful at all. But if someone has gone through this, for those of you who haven't had a miscarriage and you're not sure what to do, just listen. Just have a listening ear. I think that's the best thing that you can do. One of the things that I try to do in my life is to try to find the bright side. And I do understand that my little girl that I have right now, who I became pregnant with shortly after that miscarriage, wouldn't be here if that miscarriage wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have her here today. And she brings us so much joy. So if you have had a miscarriage or you have something that you would like to share about your experiences, please share with me with the comments or contact me via email. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I hope that this story was helpful to you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. And finally, our experiences can teach us so much and I love sharing them with you. Thanks for watching.